Hi everyone, it's a pleasure to be here again with a very short live on the theme while some people, sorry, my sound, okay, while some people get sick and others don't while living in the same environment. Have you thought about that? I hope today to give you a different perspective, and I hope if you go with one thing from this conversation, with one thought or one subject to think on about your environment or your personal health, it will be a great success for me. So while trying to offer you my view on that subject, I will start with a little overview to establish the baseline of this conversation and for you to better understand my point of view. In the human body, specific organs play defined roles, but all are connected and interdependent. This is very important to be understood. In this line of thoughts, our preparedness with knowledge, preparedness with well-being, etc., generates the levels of adaptation and responsiveness that the human well-being problems demand. In other words, being proactive is very important. And this is important to realize while discussing environmental and internal reasons for chronic conditions. We live in a very complex environment, and we continuously strive to adapt or learn to adapt, and we thrive in this environment. We are a very adaptable species, actually. We all desire to be disease-free. According to the World Health Organization, not being diagnosed with a disease is already a healthy person. I disagree with that, because not having disease but feeling lethargic is not healthy. That means that something is going on with your body. The fact that they cannot diagnose doesn't still mean that you are healthy. I would like to offer you very interesting, a little bit incomplete, but interesting statistics that comes from Wales. Wales have something which is called the Social Services and Well-being Act. Very interesting document. They try to approach people's environment in a more holistic way, with a holistic approach, which I applaud overall. They believe that 10% of the life expectancy depends on healthcare services. And I can't agree more with them, because really our healthcare is extremely strong when it comes to acute care. When it comes to acute inflammation, they can give you the antibiotic, they can take care of your broken leg, and they know how to follow up with this, and in a few days you will feel way better immediately due to their care and right doing. But when it comes to chronic diseases, what they do is they give you the pill, and you have to deal with the symptoms of these side effects of those pills, and you are destined to live your life with the disease, with the chronic disease. They just make you very dependent on that pill, which over the years is actually damaging the body. The second thing is they say 29% depends on housing conditions, and they refer to clean houses, clean of mold, clean air in the house, enough sunlight, and green spaces outside, green spaces around the houses. I agree with that 100%, because we are spending, if we work outside of the house, we spending 2/3 or more than 1/3 of our life in the house. Like sleeping, if you sleep 8 hours a day, this is 1/3. This is very important. The air has to be clean and the house has to be clean from mold. The third one is 19%. They say the life expectancy depends on social capital and welfare. What is this? These are the relationships with with the people around us, and I applaud them for this, because social interactions are extremely important. When they talk about welfare, they mean the welfare for people who are single parents or people with disability. This is the welfare. This is to relieve the stress in these people's lives. 30%, they say it depends on the jobs. I assume the working conditions, and I applaud them for this. This is very, very important, because the job environment is where we spend 1/3 of our life, 1/2 of our conscious life. If we divide the 24 hours into 3, you have 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, and 8 hours in between for traveling and enjoying life, as we say. Your working hours of 8 hours, they are 1/3 of your life, or they are half of your conscious life. So that's why it is extremely important, the conditions at work, to make sense and to be top-notch. So this is the 30%. So this is attempt of Wells to address healthcare holistically, and this is great. Many countries don't do it. They are quite a step ahead in this, and they are actually working on proactive strategy towards health. And this is all we, the health practitioners, the holistic therapists, we are thriving for that. Active, holistic approach to our health. So it is my conclusion that from a political point of view, health depends mostly on social communications and working environment. And I agree that this is, to a certain degree, absolutely right. But if we narrow it down, this conclusion, it depends on the environment we function in, right? The environment we live in and the environment we work in. So this is the environment we function in. And I understand this thinking. The politicians have the power to change the environment. They don't have much power on our development. Of course, here we can argue because the environment, the way it is, it can change us internally, and I'll be talking right now about that. So, but let me tell you something very, very important, which is missing here, and this is the human factor. What is the human factor? The human factor comes into play when we talk about our perception about the environment. And I'm going to give you an example right away. When I first moved to Montreal 20 years ago, I was absolutely happy. I was walking in the air, as they say, off the ground. I was so invigorating. Montreal was considered for a very, very clean city. My dream came true to immigrate and live in Montreal, and I was in my healthiest until that point of my life. But with the time, my perception of this environment changed. 6 years later, I bought a condo outside of Montreal, and every morning when I was traveling to go to work on the island, I would see the huge smoke around Montreal, which was considering itself one of the cleanest cities in the world, which actually my perception didn't accept that. So what could I do? My reality changed them. And this is the second one, the reality of the environment. My reality, due to my perception and my knowledge and information, changed. What happened is I took a conscious decision to spend 2 hours 2 times a week up in the mountains. Quebec doesn't really have mountains. It has one not very high mountain far away from Montreal, but it has hills that they call mountains. So I spent time there to have an impact on my health comparing to the environment. Because my perception of the environmental impact on me was that I am in trouble. I am living and breathing that air which does not lead to health. Another thing I would like to mention is that when the environment has impact over us, we have a power to change that. We just have to realize that what we suffer from has an environmental cause. And what I did, I moved to British Columbia, where, yes, the air is very clean, especially if you live far away from Vancouver, up in the mountains, as we do now. So that's what I changed in order to change the impact of the environment over me. The handling of the environment over us is very important. Obvious, it has obvious and it has a hidden impact as well. When you live in a place where it's very crowded, where the air is not clean, like New York. New York has a lot of rats. If you've been in the center part of New York, you probably have noticed when you walk on the street, on the sidewalks, you have those vents that are blowing hot air constantly, and it's a very dirty air. Another thing is all these dirt, and it's very disturbing when you go into the metro. You see all those rats there. You have a lot of cars constantly. You have traffic. This is very stressful for survival. Of course, human being is very adaptable, and this is great. So our personal development from conceiving until and after we consider ourselves mature individuals. Again, I'm going to give you an example. This relates to health very heavily. Imagine a person who is conceived without love. Imagine a person who has thought from a very early age wrong things, or person who's been abused. This all relates to our health because it teaches us of habits which are wrong health-wise. For instance, sleeping habits. I had a client for whom it was very, very important to work very, very hard and to sleep only 3 or 4 hours a night. Imagine every night sleeping that long. That means they would miss any recovery which occurs during the night, and the body has to struggle, our immune system, with that all life. Well, she ended up, despite eating very healthy, according to her, she ended up with a very gruesome cancer, colon cancer, which was very, very hard on her. So when you put the immune system under this enormous pressure and stress, problems or chronic health conditions are inevitable. So here is how our perception of the environment, our perception of ourselves, our life, our dreams, our habits lead to diseases. And we always have to be proactive and take conscious decision of how we should change those in order to heal. So our perceptions of us and of the environment rule. Yes, this is true. The reasons are always accumulative and in a process of constant fluctuation, because we are a system of systems that constantly moves, fluctuates, develops, and our society, prosperity is changing all the time. But still, you have two people who live in the same environment, and those two people are, one is getting diseased and the other doesn't get the disease. Why is that? Of course, genes play a role, but more and more doctors and scientists believe that the genes play a minor role, less than you might think, and many diseases are born out of unhealthy choices and behaviors, regardless of whether there is a genetic predisposition. Talking about food and what we talked about the environment so far. Now talking about what we are putting into our body as an information. Our body gets information about stress. We get this with the ears, eyes, but we have stress, which is biochemical stress, and this is the food. People say very often, "Oh, he ate very healthy," or "she," and then it died. The person died. It's not like that when you start digging into their habits. Let me tell you, it's not like that. I had a person that ate very healthy while eating bread a lot every day, all the time, and ended up with a very severe chronic disease. Crohn's disease, not chronic disease, yeah, it's a chronic disease. Crohn's disease, and then cancer, and then died. Bread, cheese, any type of dairies were a very important part of their diet, and very big part of their diet. Literally, they didn't eat anything else. So there was not enough protein delivery to the body. There's not enough vitamin B12, it's in the meat, and when you don't offer it to the body for a long time, the body forgets how to absorb, assimilate, and deal with the vitamin B12, and that leads to very, very grave diseases. So our foods are very highly processed, and why this is a problem? This is a problem because imagine a food is like a chip to a computer. When the body cannot recognize what we are taking in through the mouth as a food, the body really suffers. It tries to expel it. It cannot digest it. It cannot assimilate. And if it doesn't expel it, it stays in the tissue. It causes inflammation, it causes scar tissue, and it causes so the tissue cannot do what they're supposed to do. Then we have pesticides, sprayed foods. Yes, it is the same thing. These are poisons which really cause a lot of damage in the tissues of the body and cannot be excreted by the body. Then we have artificially coloring and sweeteners. A lot in the foods. High glycemic index. I would like to mention something here. High glycemic index is a problem because, as you know probably, we have the digestion started of our carbohydrates in the mouth. So very fast those carbohydrates go into the blood flow, and they spike our blood sugar. This is alert for the body. It's a very stressful situation. The body slows down, stops some of, not slows down is the word, some of the processes to deal with this, because the message from this situation to the body is we are now dying. If your blood sugar is not leveled, you can die. So if it's not balanced, not leveled. So of course, this is important to follow up with the foods that do not have high glycemic index. Online, there's a lot of charts with foods with their glycemic index, and you can make your own judgment about this. Low in fiber, our gut needs fiber to do the peristalsis. Our gut needs fiber. It extracts water from it. When the body is dehydrated, it extracts water from the gut. So yes, you need a lot of fiber. You need a lot of water too. Another thing is food-like substances which are not food. The food industry tries to mimic a lot of foods. For instance, I don't know if you've seen that video where it shows how a shake in McDonald's made of maybe strawberries has no strawberries in it. Actually, it's all chemicals. So here is how the food industry tries to mimic the food, but the body, you can't deceive the body. The body will suffer actually, and will try to excrete it if it can. If it can't, then we have a big problem. Foods are loaded with hormones. This is a big problem with the dairies, because dairies and meats, when you don't know the sources, yes, they're loaded with hormones to grow faster. They're also loaded with medicines, hormonal medicines, for healthy reasons of the cattle and etc. And those come to our body, and this is a big problem. So the food and the dairy very often is contaminated with antibiotics. So another thing I would like to say is about the blood flow to the brain. Very shortly, the quality and the purity of the blood that gets to the brain, the adequate quantity of the blood, and the blood vessels condition, which should deliver the blood to the brain in a timely manner, is very, very important. Here, I would like to notice for you that exercise is very important, because with the exercise we deliver timely the needed oxygenated quantity and high quality blood to the brain. So in this short time I have mentioned two things: the environment and our perception about the environment, and what is getting into the body. Of course, people have different immune system, and it's a very complicated and layered thing, the immune system, and on that depends our health finally. We can take care of our immune system, we can take care of changing of our environment. This is not something which is not under our control, and I think that more and more people will be proactive in the future, holistically, for our health. So I'm hoping I suggested some points for you to think about, some changes you can make in your life to improve your health, because not being diagnosed with a disease is not healthy. It's not enough to be healthy, because being not diagnosed with a disease but feeling lethargic or feeling confused or not able to focus is still not healthy. And if one person seems to you that they're always healthy but they don't do much about it, and it's natural to them, you just dig deeper, ask them what they do, observe their lifestyle, and you will see that there are many things they're doing to be healthy. And maybe they don't do it on purpose, consciously. Maybe these are habits they created through life. It doesn't matter. Health is because we are healthy because we take care of ourselves, and we are unhealthy because we don't take care of ourselves. So that's why two people in the same environment can become diseased or not diseased. It's about how we deal with this environment. And never forget, the most important thing I consider is the social contact. Actually, the biggest research of all times, I think it's over 80 years old, just finished, and a couple of years ago. And their conclusion was that healthy people are happy people, and happy people are those who have nice, loving relationships with the people around them. So health is not only a physical component, as we are big constitutions of systems, and health is also psychological component of our healthy constitution, or unhealthy constitution, if we lose the sight of our health. So thank you for being here. It was a pleasure for me to give this little lecture. I hope if you have questions, you will be getting in touch with me. Thank you.
Leave a question or comment and we'll be glad to answer. Thank you for watching.